Hey everyone, hope you're doing great. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we'll dive into what if Principal Nezu personally trained Deku. Smash that subscribe button, and be sure to peek at the description below. Let's begin. The smell of ozone and sewage was a cloying, suffocating cocktail that clung to the back of Izuku Midoriya's throat. It was the scent of failure. The flashing lights of the police cruisers painted the alleyway in strobes of harsh red and blue, cutting through the gathering twilight of Mizurufu. The crowd was dispersing, their murmurs a dull roar of excitement and critique, but Izuku stood rooted to the spot, his red sneakers scuffed against the asphalt. "You were reckless! You could have gotten yourself killed!" The voice of Kamui Woods was sharp, lacking the heroic resonance Izuku usually admired. It was just a man, angry and tired. And not only that, death arms added, crossing his massive, timber-like arms over his chest. "You interfered with professional work. You're a quirkless kid with a death wish. Do you understand how much trouble you caused?" Izuku bowed his head, his chin touching his chest. "I'm sorry," he whispered, though the words felt hollow. "My legs, they just moved." "Whatever," Death Arms scoffed, turning away to sign a police report. "Just go home. Leave the hero work to the heroes." Izuku shrank into himself. He turned, his shoulders hunched, and began the long walk out of the cordon. As he passed the ambulance, he saw him. Katsuki Bikugo. He was sitting on the back of the vehicle, a shock blanket draped over his shoulders. He was being praised. "That quirk is something else, kid," a reporter was saying. "You held out against the slime for so long. You're a natural." Katsuki didn't look happy, he looked murderous, but the narrative was already set. Katsuki was the survivor, the prodigy who endured. Izuku was the nuisance, the civilian liability. The dichotomy was so sharp it felt like a physical blow. Izuku walked faster, ducking under the yellow police tape. He needed to get away. He needed to disappear. He walked for blocks without looking up, his mind a chaotic storm of self-loathing. "They're right. I'm an idiot. I'm a Deku. I tried to save him, and all I did was get in the way. If All Might hadn't shown up, All Might." The image of the symbol of peace punching the weather itself into submission replayed in his mind. That was what a hero was. Power. Charisma. Presence. Everything Izuku lacked. He turned a corner onto a quieter residential street, the sounds of the city fading into the background. He adjusted the strap of his yellow backpack. It felt lighter than usual. "My notebook." He froze. Hero Analysis for the Future, Volume 13. Katsuki had burned it, thrown it out the window, and then the sludge villain had, well, it was probably floating in a sewer somewhere, dissolving into pulp, just like his dreams. A pity about the spine, really. The binding glue was quite substandard. The voice was high-pitched, polite, and came from ankle height. Izuku yelped, jumping back and nearly tripping over his own feet. He looked down. Standing on top of a brick wall that lined the sidewalk was a creature. It was a bear? A mouse? A dog? It was incredibly small, perhaps no taller than 2 feet, dressed in a sharply tailored 3-piece suit with a maroon tie. A scar ran vertically down its right eye. The creature was holding a charred, damp, slightly crumpled notebook. Izuku's eyes widened. That's mine." "Indeed," the creature said, its black eyes glittering with an intelligence that made Izuku's skin crawl pleasantly. "I retrieved it from the koi pond before the sludge incident escalated. Then I took the liberty of reading it while observing the festivities." "You observed?" Izuku stammered. "Wait, who are you?" The creature smiled. It wasn't a comforting smile. It was a smile that contained too many teeth and too much knowledge. "Am I a mouse? A dog? A bear? My identity is secondary to what I represent." The creature hopped down from the wall, landing with impossible grace. "I am the principal of UA High School. My name is Nezu." Izuku's brain short-circuited. The principal of UA. The school of his dreams. The Harvard of heroics. Standing on a sidewalk in a quiet neighborhood, holding his burned diary. Principal Nezu?" Izuku squeaked. Wait, why? What are you doing here?" "Scouting," Nezu said simply. He tapped the notebook with a paw. "I must say, Midoriya Izuku, this is a fascinating dichotomy. On one hand, the handwriting is atrocious, likely due to hurried scribbling in the field, and the sketches are crude. But the content. Nezu flipped the book open. Page 24. Kamui Woods. You noted that his lacquer chain prison has a 0.5-second delay between extension and solidification, leaving him vulnerable to fire-type quirks or corrosive acids. You also suggested he incorporate a secondary, non-wood-binding agent for such scenarios. Izuku blushed furiously. I was just rambling. It's just a hobby. And here, Nezu continued, ignoring the denial. Page 42. Mount Lady. You calculated her caloric burn rate based on her mass increase and suggested she carries high-density glucose supplements to prevent cognitive decline during prolonged gigantification. Most pros don't even consider their own metabolic constraints until they pass out. Nezu snapped the book shut. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the quiet street. The heroes back there called you reckless, Nezu said, his tone dropping an octave. They called you a nuisance. I saw something different. I saw a boy who assessed a hostage situation, realized the heroes were incompatible with the villain's physiology, identified the only vulnerable point, the eyes and mouth, and acted to create an opening. You didn't run in blindly, did you? You ran in because you realized they were doing nothing. Izuku trembled. Tears pricked the corners of his eyes. It was the first time anyone had described his actions as anything other than suicidal stupidity. I couldn't just watch him die. Commendable, Nezu said. But ultimately futile. You lacked the power to capitalize on your analysis. You created an opening, yes, but you had no means to finish the job. You are a scalpel without a handle, a computer without a monitor. Nezu began to pace around Izuku, his tail twitching. I have been looking for a student, Midoriya-kun. UA produces fine heroes. Strong heroes. But lately? They are dull. They punch. They blast. They burn. They rely on the genetic lottery to solve complex societal problems. I am bored of brute force. I am looking for a successor to my own personal philosophy, high specs. Nezu stopped in front of Izuku, looking up. I have done a background check on you. Quirkless. Socially ostracized. High academic scores, despite what appears to be systemic bias from your middle school teachers marking you down. You are at the bottom of the food chain. Izuku flinched. You don't have to rub it in. I am not rubbing it in. I am stating the variables, Nezu chirped. The bottom of the food chain is where evolution is most aggressive. I want to make you a deal. Izuku wiped his eyes. A deal? I will grant you admission to UA High School, Nezu said. The world stopped spinning. What? However, Nezu raised a claw. You will not be entering the hero course through the standard entrance exam. You will be my personal student. I will train your mind. I will teach you to dismantle villains not just with fists, but with psychology, strategy, law, and physics. I will teach you how to bring society's pillars to their knees with a single whisper. Nezu's grin widened, looking almost feral. But make no mistake. My training will make the fires of hell look like a vacation. If you break, you are out. Do you accept? Izuku's heart hammered against his ribs. This was it. A chance. It wasn't the chance he thought he wanted. He wanted to be like All Might. But it was a path to being a hero. Izuku started, clenching his fists. I want to be a hero who saves everyone with a smile. Can I do that with just my mind? Knowledge is power, Midoriya-kun. With enough leverage, a mouse can flip a tank, Nezu replied. Before Izuku could answer, a gust of wind blasted down the street, rattling the street lamps. I am here! Izuku and Nezu both turned. Sliding out from an alleyway in a cloud of dust was All Might. He looked majestic, his signature grin plastered on his face, though steam was rising from his body in an alarming way. Young Midoriya! All Might boomed, striking a pose. I have come to, he froze. He looked down. He saw the small white mammal standing next to the boy. All Might's grin twitched. Principal Nezu? Good evening, All Might, Nezu said pleasantly. Or should I say Tashinori? All Might choked. He looked left, then right, ensuring the street was empty. With a sudden poof of steam, the muscular giant deflated. In his place stood a skeletal man with sunken eyes, coughing up a small amount of blood. Izuku screamed. All Might? You deflated. It's a long story, kid, the skeletal man wheezed, wiping his mouth. He looked nervously at Nezu. Principal, what are you doing here? I was tracking this boy. I needed to speak with him. Nezu crossed his arms behind his back. Is that so? Well, you are too late. I have just offered Midoriya-kun a personal mentorship under my direct supervision. All Might blinked. Mentorship? But... Nezu, sir, I came here to offer him my power. Silence descended on the street. Izuku looked between the two of them. Your power? All Might straightened up, trying to regain some dignity. Yes. Young Midoriya, today you showed me what it means to be a hero. You moved when others stood still. I have been looking for a successor to inherit my quirk, one for all. I want you to be the next symbol of peace. Izuku felt like he was hallucinating. Within 10 minutes, the two most powerful figures in the hero world had offered him the world. He dropped to his knees, tears streaming freely now. Me? But I'm quirkless. That is why you are worthy. All Might said passionately. You have the heart of a hero. Heart is insufficient, Nezu interjected smoothly. All Might frowned, looking down at the principal. Excuse me? Heart, Nezu repeated, his tone sharpening. Heart is what made him run into a villain made of sludge with nothing but a backpack. Heart is what almost got him killed. If you give him your power, All Might, you are just handing a loaded gun to a toddler. He will blow his limbs off. I intend to train his body. All Might argued. I have a plan. We'll clean up Dagoba Beach. It will build his vessel. Muscles, Nezu scoffed. You think muscles make a hero? You, the man who solved every problem in the last 30 years by punching it harder? And look at you now, half a stomach, a respiratory system held together by hope, and a time limit that decreases by the day. You are the symbol of attrition, not peace. All Might flinched as if struck. That's harsh, sir. It is logic, Nezu countered. Midoriya has a rare gift. His analytical processing speed is off the charts. He deconstructs quirks instinctively. If you give him one for all without sharpening that mind, he will just become another brute who breaks himself to save one person, ignoring the 10 others he could have saved with a better strategy. He needs power to save anyone at all. All Might retorted, stepping forward. Ideals and strategy don't stop a falling building. He needs the strength to hold it up, and he needs the intelligence to know where to apply the pressure so the building doesn't crumble in his hands. Nezu snapped back, his tail bristling. Izuku watched, wide-eyed, as the argument escalated. It was surreal. All Might, the emotional core of heroism, versus Nezu, the cold logic of the institution. I want to give him the quirk, All Might insisted. He is the one. And I want to train his brain, Nezu insisted. He is a diamond in the rough. They glared at each other. Then, slowly, both heads turned toward Izuku. Young Midoriya, All Might said. Choose. Midoriya-kun, Nezu said. Decide. Izuku looked at the skeletal hand of All Might, offering a power he had dreamed of since he was 4 years old. Then he looked at Nezu, offering validation of his mind, the one thing everyone else had called creepy or useless. He swallowed hard. He stood up, wiping his face with his sleeve. Why? Izuku started, his voice trembling. Why not both? The two educators blinked. Both? Nezu asked. Both? All Might echoed. Izuku took a deep breath, his mind racing, pulling up the schedules and logistics he had internalized from years of hero fanbang. The entrance exam is in 10 months. All Might, you said I need to build a vessel. That's physical conditioning. That takes time, but it doesn't take 24 hours a day. The body needs rest to repair muscle fibers. He turned to Nezu. And Principal Nezu, you said I'm a scalpel without a handle. If I have All Might's power, I'll have the handle. But if I don't have your training, I won't know where to cut. If I just train my body, I'll be dumb but strong. If I just train my mind, I'll be smart but weak. I need both. Izuku looked down at his shoes, then up at them, his eyes burning with a sudden, fierce determination. If I'm going to be the greatest hero, I need to be the high-spec symbol of peace. Nezu stared at the boy. Then, a slow, terrifying grin spread across his face. He began to cackle. It was a high-pitched, maniacal sound that echoed off the walls. Greedy! I love it! Nezu clapped his paws together. He wants to monopolize the resources. Very efficient. All Might scratched the back of his head. Well, I suppose, if the principal is willing to help, I can't deny it would be beneficial. I'm not exactly an experienced teacher. Understatement of the century, Nezu quipped. Very well. We have an accord. Nezu pulled a smartphone out of his vest pocket. It was customized for his paw's size. We will establish a joint custody arrangement. Mornings will be physical conditioning with All Might. Afternoons and evenings will be cognitive restructuring and tactical analysis with me. Weekends will be practical field simulations. That sounds intense, All Might noted. It will be hell, Nezu corrected cheerfully. He looked at Izuku. Midoriya-kun, say goodbye to your free time. Say goodbye to sleep. You are about to enter the most rigorous educational program in the history of Japan. Izuku gulped, but he nodded. I'll do it. Whatever it takes. Nezu handed the burnt notebook back to Izuku. Keep this. It is a reminder of your origin. But from tomorrow, you will not just be watching heroes. You will be dissecting them. Nezu turned and began walking down the street. Come along, All Might. We have a curriculum to build. I need to explain to you why Go Beyond is not a valid lesson plan. All Might sighed, his shoulders slumping. Yes, sir. He looked back at Izuku. Meet me at Dagoba Municipal Beach Park tomorrow at 5 a.m., young Midoriya. Bring a change of clothes, and bring a chess set. Nezu called out without looking back. And a copy of the Japanese Civil Code. Izuku stood alone on the street as the two figures disappeared into the night. He looked down at his hands. They were shaking, not with fear, but with adrenaline. For years he had been nothing. Just a pebble on the side of the road. But now he was the project of the two strongest beings in the country. He clutched the burnt notebook to his chest. I'm going to be a hero, he whispered to the empty air. But somewhere in the back of his mind, a new voice, one that sounded suspiciously like a mouse, whispered back, No. You are going to be a revolution. The next morning, 4:55 a.m., Dagoba Municipal Beach was a graveyard of trash. Mountains of scrap metal, old tires, rotting appliances, and driftwood stretched as far as the eye could see. The sun was just beginning to bleed over the horizon, casting long, jagged shadows across the sand. Izuku stood by the railing, shivering slightly in his tracksuit. He had barely slept. He had spent the night researching Nezu. There wasn't much. The principal was an enigma. A case of high-intelligence animals is rare, unique, even. The rumors on the forums were terrifying. Some said he had a limitless IQ. Others said he could hack the Pentagon in 5 minutes. You're early. Good. All Might, in his buff form, landed with a thud in front of him. Welcome to the first step of your journey, young Midoriya. Good morning, All Might. Izuku bowed. This beach, All Might gestured grandly to the trash heap, used to be a beautiful park. Now it is a blight. But for you, it is a gym. Your goal is to clear this section of the beach over the next 10 months. It will prepare your body to receive my quirk. Izuku looked at the literal tons of garbage. All of it? All of it, inefficient. The voice came from atop a rusty refrigerator stack. Nezu was sitting there, sipping a cup of tea from a china cup that he had seemingly pulled from thin air. Principal Nezu. Izuku stood at attention. Good morning, Nezu said. All Might. While manual labor is good for hypertrophy, it is mindless. Midoriya-kun. Yes, sir. Don't just move the trash, Nezu ordered, hopping down. Categorize it. Izuku blinked. Sir, this isn't just weight. Nezu tapped a rusted truck axle with his cane. This is a logistical puzzle. If you move this axle, that pile of tires will collapse. If you drag that fridge, you will strain your lumbar because the sand provides poor traction. Analyze the trash. Create a workflow. Optimize your pathing. Nezu pointed to a massive, rotting wardrobe buried under debris. Calculate the fulcrum point required to lift that with minimum effort. Estimate the tensile strength of that rope over there. If you just pull, you are a laborer. If you plan, you are an engineer. All Might laughed nervously. Right. What he said. Move the trash, smartly. And so, the hell began. For the first 4 hours, Izuku hauled trash. But under Nezu's watchful eye, he wasn't allowed to just grab and pull. He had to pause, assess the structural integrity of the trash pile, and execute the removal like a game of high-stakes Jenga. Wrong! Nezu would shout from his perch. You used your back, not your legs. And you ignored the leverage offered by that steel pipe. You wasted 400 joules of energy. Do it again. By 9 a.m., Izuku was lying face down in the sand, unable to feel his arms. Excellent work on the physical front, Nezu chirped, checking a pocket watch. Now, All Might, you are dismissed. Midoriya-kun, you have 30 minutes to shower and eat. Then, your real training begins. 10 a.m. A soundproof room in Yue. Izuku sat at a steel desk. The room was sterile, white, and devoid of distractions. Nezu sat opposite him. Between them was a chessboard. Do you know how to play chess, Midoriya-kun? A little, Izuku said. My mom taught me. Good. Move. Izuku moved a pawn. Nezu moved a knight. 3 moves later, Nezu spoke. Checkmate. Izuku stared at the board. What? How? You play reactively, Nezu said, resetting the board with a blur of motion. You looked at my piece, saw it was attacking, and moved to defend. You didn't ask why I was attacking. You didn't look at the empty space I was clearing. Nezu tapped his temple. Villains are not chess pieces, but they follow patterns. Muscular villains tend to be overconfident. They attack in straight lines. Intellectual villains are paranoid. They leave traps. You must categorize them instantly. Nezu pulled out a tablet and slid it across the table. On the screen was a video of a villain attack. A bank robbery from 3 years ago. Watch this. Tell me who the leader is. Izuku watched. There were 3 villains. One was blasting fire, keeping the police back. Another was smashing the vault. The third was a guy with a lizard head, holding the hostages. The guy with the fire, Izuku said. He's the strongest. He's holding the line. Wrong, Nezu said. Look at their eyes. Izuku looked closer. The fire guy kept glancing back. Not at the vault, but at the lizard guy. The smasher was also looking at the lizard guy every time he hit the door. The lizard guy? Izuku guessed. Correct. The fire user is powerful but anxious. He looks to the leader for reassurance. The smasher is a brute. He waits for commands. The lizard man is standing still, conserving energy, observing the police perimeter. He is the brain. If you take out the fire user, the lizard man will execute a hostage or escape. If you take out the lizard man, the other 2 will panic and their coordination will collapse. Nezu leaned forward. This is asymmetrical warfare. You will likely not be the strongest person in the room, Midoriya-kun. Even with one for all, there will be someone with a quirk that counters yours. Therefore, you must attack the mind. Attack the mind, Izuku repeated, absorbing the words. Psychological destabilization, Nezu said. Fear. Confusion. Misinformation. If a villain thinks you are stronger than you are, they will hesitate. If they think you know their weakness, they will cover it, exposing a different opening. You must be a ghost. A demon. A computer glitch in their reality. Nezu smiled. By the time you leave UA, I want you to be able to defeat a villain without ever throwing a punch. Just by speaking. Just by standing in the right place at the right time. The screen changed to a complex logic puzzle. Solve this. You have 30 seconds. If you fail, the room temperature drops by 10 degrees. What? Start. Month 3, the simulation. The training had evolved. Izuku was no longer just moving trash or playing chess. He was currently hiding in a dense forest simulation on UA grounds. He was muddy, bruised, and exhausted. His objective, reach the extraction point. The obstacle, Nezu. Nezu was operating a high-speed drone equipped with paintball guns. But it wasn't just a drone. It was a predator. Izuku crouched behind a tree, breathing heavily. He knows I'm heading north. He herded me this way by blocking the south path with suppressive fire. He wants me in the clearing. Izuku looked at the clearing ahead. It was the fastest way. But it was a kill box. What would Nezu do? He expects me to try and be clever and flank through the swamp to the east. He's probably mined it with sensor trips. Izuku looked up. The canopy. He grabbed a vine. He didn't have one for all yet. He just had muscles honed by 3 months of dragging refrigerators. He hoisted himself up, his grip strength screaming. He traversed the branches, moving silently. He reached the edge of the clearing. Below, he saw the drone hovering, its camera scanning the swamp entrance to the east. Predictable, Izuku thought, a smirk touching his lips that mirrored his mentor's. He reached into his pocket. He pulled out a stone he had wrapped in his own shirt. He threw it hard toward the west side of the clearing. Thump! The drone whipped around, guns spinning. Izuku dropped from the tree directly behind the drone. He landed on the chassis, wrapping his legs around it. The drone bucked wildly, but Izuku found the manual override switch, something Nezu had forced him to memorize from the schematics of 20 different drone models. He flipped the switch. The drone powered down and dropped to the grass. Dead, Izuku panted. A speaker on a nearby tree crackled to life. Impressive, Nezu's voice came through. You used the shirt to dampen the sound of the rock impact to simulate a footstep rather than a projectile, and you correctly assumed I would prioritize the flank over the vertical axis. Grade A-. Only A-? Izuku groaned, sliding off the drone. You forgot to check for the secondary drone, Nezu said cheerfully. Splat. A paintball hit Izuku square in the back of the head. Always assume there is a second shooter, Midoriya-kun. Again. Month 8. The vessel. Izuku stood on top of a pile of garbage that rivaled a small mountain. He was shirtless, his body screaming with definition. The baby fat was gone. In its place was lean, corded muscle. He looked like a statue carved from determination. All Might stood at the base, looking up with pride. You've done it! You've actually done it! The beach is clear. Izuku wiped sweat from his forehead. He didn't just feel strong. He felt aware. Every piece of trash he had moved had been calculated. He knew his body's limits exactly. I'm ready, Izuku called down. You are! All Might yelled. He plucked a strand of golden hair from his head. Now! Eat this! Izuku froze. Huh! It contains my DNA. It's how the transfer works. Izuku looked at the hair. He looked at All Might. That's scientifically dubious, but I suppose the genetic material needs to be ingested to merge with the recipient's biological factor. Stop analyzing and eat it. Izuku swallowed the hair. He waited. Nothing's happening, Izuku said. It takes a few hours to digest, All Might explained. But now you possess the power. How do you feel? Izuku closed his eyes. He reached inside himself. He felt a hum. A stockpile. It felt like a roaring furnace waiting for a spark. It's there, Izuku whispered. Good, a voice said. A black limousine pulled up to the curb of the clean beach. The window rolled down, revealing Nezu. Get in, Nezu said. The entrance exam is next week. We have finished the physical preparation. We have finished the tactical theory. What's left? Izuku asked, pulling on a shirt. Nezu smiled, and the scar on his eye seemed to stretch. Now we integrate. You have the ultimate power and the ultimate mind. Now I teach you how to use them simultaneously without exploding. The night before the exam, Izuku sat in his room. His walls, once covered in All Might posters, were now plastered with maps, flowcharts, and diagrams of quirk interactions. He held his burnt notebook. He flipped to the newest page. Entry, Midoriya Izuku. Quirk, 1 for all. Subprocessor, high specs, Nezu variant. He wrote down a new note. Weakness, limb damage from 100% usage. Solution, do not use 100%. Regulate output. Use environment to supplement force. Threat assessment priority, rescue over combat. Efficiency over flashiness. He closed the book. He wasn't the trembling kid in the alleyway anymore. He was something new. He looked at the mirror. He practiced his smile. It wasn't All Might's blinding grin. It was smaller, sharper. It was a smile that said, "I know exactly how to defeat you." Tomorrow, Yue would meet the high-spec successor. And they wouldn't know what hit them. The alarm clock didn't even get a chance to scream. Izuku Midoriya's hand shot out from under the duvet, silencing the device at 4:59 a.m. precisely. His eyes snapped open. There was no grogginess, no lingering desire to stay in the warmth of his bed. His brain, conditioned by 3 weeks of psychological warfare, immediately began booting up like a high-end processor. Variable 1 weather. He glanced at the window. Overcast. High humidity. Implication: sand at Dagoba Beach will be clumped, increasing friction coefficient by approximately 15%. Debris will be slippery. Variable 2, physical state. Mild soreness in the trapezius and deltoids. Implication: recovery from yesterday's tire hauling is 85% complete. Focus load bearing on legs today. Variable 3, the rat. Izuku shuddered. Variable 3 was always the wild card. He rolled out of bed, his feet hitting the floor with a rhythmic thud. He moved through his morning routine with robotic efficiency. Brush teeth, 2 minutes. Wash face, 30 seconds. Consume nutrient jelly provided by UA support companies, 10 seconds. Taste, questionable. Dress in a tracksuit, 45 seconds. He grabbed his backpack, now heavier, filled not just with textbooks, but with lead weights and a laptop with encryption software that was technically illegal for a civilian to own, and stepped out the door. His mother, Inko, was still asleep. Izuku paused by her door, guilt gnawing at him. He hadn't told her the full extent of the training program. She knew he was working out. She knew he had been scouted by UA for a specialized academic track. She didn't know that the specialized track involved hauling industrial waste at dawn and deconstructing the psychological profiles of mass murderers at dusk. He stepped into the cool morning air. He didn't run. He jogged, pacing himself, monitoring his heart rate. His life had become a series of logic gates. If A, training, then B, survival. If not A, then C, death/failure. Part 1. The Physics of Garbage. Dagoba Municipal Beach was a monument to human apathy. It was a sprawling, jagged landscape of rusted metal, rotting wood, and plastic that would outlive the sun. All Might was already there, standing atop a refrigerator like a golden gargoyle. He was in his muscle form, beaming at the rising sun. "Young Midoriya! You are punctual. Good morning, All Might!" Izuku called back, navigating the obstacle course of trash to reach the designated Sector 4. "Today," All Might boomed, leaping down and landing with a spray of sand, "we focus on the core. To hold one for all, your trunk must be as solid as an oak. Therefore, you will be moving these safes." He pointed to a cluster of rusted, heavy-duty office safes that had been dumped illegally years ago. "Just lift and carry?" Izuku asked, stretching his hamstrings. "Lift with your back." "I mean your legs." "With spirit." All Might gave a thumbs up. "Incorrect." The voice cut through the salty air like a scalpel. Nezu popped out from inside one of the safes, the heavy steel door creaking open. He held a cup of Earl Grey tea, steam rising delicately into the morning mist. All Might jumped a foot in the air. "Principal? You were in there? It's surprisingly cozy." "Excellent acoustics," Nezu chirped. He hopped out, dressed in a miniature windbreaker and khakis. "Midoriya-kun, ignore the oath. If you lift that safe directly, you will compress your spinal discs. You weigh 60 kilograms. The safe weighs 200. The sand provides unstable footing." Nezu pointed his cane at a pile of scrap nearby. "There is a rusted engine hoist, 3 lengths of high-tensile steel cable, and 2 pulleys from a broken crane. Construct a compound pulley system using the pier piling as an anchor. Reduce the input force required by 75%. Izuku blinked, his mind shifting gears from hero mode to engineer mode. He looked at the debris. He saw the geometry. "If I anchor to the pier," Izuku muttered, tapping his chin, "I need to ensure the wood isn't rotted. If it holds, a double pulley system would give me a mechanical advantage of 4, so I'd only be lifting effectively 50 kilograms. "Precisely," Nezu smiled, his teeth sharp. "Work smarter, not harder. Heroes who rely solely on muscle find themselves useless when their bones break." Heroes who use physics can move mountains with a finger. All might look between the boy and the principal. But surely he needs the resistance training to build the muscle mass? He will still be pulling 50 kilograms repeatedly across unstable terrain, Nezu countered. He will build endurance and stabilize our muscles. More importantly, he will build synapses. Now begin. You have 20 minutes before the tide comes in and wets the cables, increasing corrosion risk. Izuku moved. He didn't just grab the trash, he scavenged it. He dragged the engine hoist, dug through the sand for the cables, and shimmied up the pier piling like a monkey to secure the anchor. As he worked, he felt Nezu's eyes on him. It wasn't the judging glare of his middle school teachers. It was the cold, calculating observation of a scientist watching a lab rat run a maze. Faster, Midoriya, Nezu called out calmly. The villain isn't waiting for you to tie a knot. The building is collapsing. The bomb timer is ticking. Your clumsiness is costing lives. Izuku fumbled the cable, gritted his teeth, and retied it. Focus. Don't panic. Analyze the friction. He hooked the safe. He planted his feet. He pulled. The safe rose. It swung slightly, but the mechanical advantage held. Izuku dragged it backward, his heels digging trenches in the sand, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Good, Nezu said. Now calculate the torque vector of that swing. If the cable snaps, where does the safe land? Who does it kill? It swings right, Izuku wheezed, not stopping his pull. Impact zone, 2 meters to the east. Then why is All Might standing there? Nezu asked. All Might yelped and scrambled to the left. Situational awareness, Midoriya. Nezu barked, his voice suddenly losing its cheeriness. You are focused on the task, but you lost the environment. A hero who saves the victim but drops a safe on his sidekick is a failure. Reset. Do it again, and so it went. For 3 hours, Izuku built machines out of trash. He built levers to flip cars. He built rollers to move beams. He built ramps to slide debris. By 8 a.m., he was exhausted, covered in grease and sand, but the sector was clear. Excellent, Nezu said, checking his pocket watch. Physical conditioning complete. Midoriya-kun, you have school today, correct? Yes, sir, Izuku panted, chugging a bottle of water. Pay attention in class, Nezu said. Specifically to your history teacher. I have reason to believe his lecture on the Quirk Rights Act of 20XX is factually biased. I want a 500-word rebuttal on my desk by 5 p.m. Yes, sir. And Midoriya? Izuku froze. Yes? Nezu smiled. It was terrifying. Do not let Bakugo Katsuki bait you. If he initiates conflict, do not engage physically. Dismantle him verbally. Use the psychological profile we discussed on Tuesday. Izuku swallowed hard. I'll try. Do not try. Calculate. Part 2, The Aldera Anomaly. Aldera Junior High had always been a prison for Izuku. It was a place where he was the punchline, the punching bag, the Deku. But today, it felt smaller. He sat at his desk, the chatter of his classmates washing over him like white noise. He was reading a textbook on advanced structural engineering hidden inside his English manga. Deku. The explosion popped on his desk, singeing the corner of his notebook. Izuku looked up. Katsuki Bakugo loomed over him, red eyes narrowing. Behind him, his lackey snickered. I heard you've been sneaking out early in the morning, Bakugo sneered. Playing hero in the trash? Trying to bulk up that quirkless twig body? The old Izuku would have flinched. He would have stammered, apologized, and tried to shrink away. But the new Izuku, the Izuku who spent his evenings debating ethics with a creature smarter than humanity, saw something different. Variable, Bakugo Katsuki. State, aggressive. Insecure. Trigger, perceived threat to status. Observations, shoulders tense. Palms sweating, nitroglycerin accumulation. He's looking for a reaction to validate his superiority. Izuku slowly closed his book. He didn't stand up. He didn't look away. He met Bakugo's eyes. I'm just exercising, Kaken, Izuku said calmly. His voice didn't waver. Doctors recommend cardiovascular health for stress relief. You seem stressed. Maybe you should try it. The classroom went silent. The lackeys stopped laughing. Bakugo looked like he had been slapped with a wet fish. Ha! Bakugo's voice dropped low. Sparks flew wildly. Are you looking down on me, you nerd? No, Izuku said. He shifted slightly, calculating the distance. If he swings with his right, I duck left. His center of gravity is high. I'm just stating a physiological fact. Cortisol levels affect quirk performance. Being angry all the time makes your explosions less efficient. It was something Nezu had mentioned in passing. Emotion is fuel, but uncontrolled fuel is just a bomb that kills the user. Bakugo's face turned a shade of red that defied physics. He raised a hand, explosions crackling. I'll kill you, Bakugo. Sit down. The teacher walked in, slamming his book on the podium. Bakugo froze. He glared at the teacher, then back at Izuku. This isn't over. He stomped to his seat. Izuku exhaled, his heart hammering against his ribs. He was terrified. But he was also exhilarated. He hadn't fought back with fists. He hadn't even insulted him really. He had just applied logic, and it had worked. Asymmetrical warfare, Izuku thought, a small smile touching his lips. I can't beat him in a fight. But I can confuse him. Part 3, The Red Room. After school, Izuku didn't go home. He took the train to UA. He had a security pass now. Passing through the massive barrier gates felt surreal every time. He navigated the labyrinthine hallways to the principal's office. Or rather, the training room behind the office. It was a windowless room dominated by screens. A server rack hummed in the corner. The air was kept at a chilly 18 degrees Celsius. You're late, Nezu said. He was sitting in a swivel chair that was far too big for him, typing on 3 keyboards simultaneously. The train was delayed. A villain attack at Tatooine Station, Izuku explained, dropping his bag. I know. Mount Lady caused 4 million yen in property damage to stop a purse snatcher who stole 5,000 yen. Inefficient, Nezu muttered. He spun the chair around. Today, we enter Phase 2. The logic of sacrifice. Izuku sat in the simulation chair. He put on the VR headset. Scenario 44B, Nezu announced. Bank robbery. 6 hostages. 3 villains with unknown quirks. You have no backup. Begin. The world dissolved into digital wireframes, then solidified into a high-resolution bank lobby. Izuku looked down. He was in his hero costume, a green jumpsuit. He saw the villains. One had gun hands. One was made of rock. The third was holding a detonator. Izuku analyzed. Rock guy is slow. Gun guy is covering the door. Detonator guy is the priority. He moved. He used his speed, amplified by the simulation to match 5% OFA, which he didn't have yet but was training for. He smashed through the skylight. Smash! He yelled mentally. He landed on the rock guy. He dodged the bullets. He rushed the detonator guy. The villain panicked and clicked the button. Izuku threw himself over the hostages. Boom! The screen went black. Game over. Hostages survived. 6 out of 6. Hero status, deceased. Izuku pulled the headset off, panting. I did it! I saved them all! Nezu was staring at him. He wasn't smiling. His black eyes were hard, like obsidian beads. You failed, Nezu said flatly. Izuku blinked. What? No, the counter said 6 out of 6 survived. I took the blast. And you died, Nezu said. But that's what heroes do. Izuku argued, his chest tight. All Might says, All Might is an anomaly. Nezu slammed a paw on the desk. The sound was startlingly loud. All Might is invincible. You are not. Midoriya, look at the screen. Nezu typed a command. The screen showed a news report simulation. Breaking news, Hero Deku killed in bank explosion. Following his death, the villain organization the Black Omen realized there was no longer a hero patrolling the Muzudafu district. 3 days later, they bombed a hospital. Casualties, 140. Izuku stared at the screen, horror washing over him. You saved 6 people, Nezu whispered, his voice dangerously low. And because you threw your life away for a noble sacrifice, 140 people died. Was it worth it? Izuku couldn't speak. This is the hero disease, Nezu continued, hopping off the chair and pacing. Self-sacrifice is romanticized. It is called brave. I call it mathematically unsound. If you are a high-spec asset, which you will be, your life has a value greater than a random civilian. That sounds cruel. It sounds villainous. But it is the calculus of war. Nezu stopped in front of Izuku. If you die, one for all dies with you. The symbol of peace is gone. The strategic mind I am cultivating is gone. You are an investment, Midoriya. You do not get to spend yourself like pocket change. Izuku gripped his knees. So what was I supposed to do? Let them die. No, Nezu snapped. You were supposed to win without dying. Why did you enter through the skylight? Element of surprise. You surrendered your position. You entered a kill box. Why didn't you cut the power? Nezu pointed to the schematics. The breaker box was on the exterior wall. Why didn't you hack the PA system to create a distraction? Why didn't you use the ventilation shafts to pump and sleep gas? I didn't think of those. Because you were thinking like a brute. You were thinking, I must punch the problem. I am trying to teach you to solve the problem. Nezu climbed back into his chair. Reset the simulation. This time, you are forbidden from entering the building. Save them from the outside. Use the environment. Use the police resources. Use fear. Begin. Izuku put the headset back on. His hands were shaking. Don't die. Don't be a hero. Be a problem solver. This time, Izuku didn't jump. He circled the building. He found the breaker box. He cut the power. Inside the simulation, the bank went dark. The villains panicked. Izuku used the hacked police comms to broadcast his voice into the bank lobby, amplifying the bass to sound monstrous. I can see in the dark, Izuku lied, his voice booming. But you can't. The first one to drop their weapon gets to walk out in handcuffs. The others get the hospital. He threw a rock through the window, breaking the glass. The gun-hand villain fired blindly at the noise. The muzzle flash illuminated his position. The rock villain, confused, swung and hit his partner. Chaos ensued. The villains turned on each other. Izuku waited. When the detonator guy dropped the trigger to fight the rock guy, Izuku signaled the SWAT team to breach. Game over. Hostages survived. 6 out of 6. Hero status, alive. Villains apprehended. Izuku took off the headset. He felt sick, but he also felt powerful. Better, Nezu said. Messy but better. You use deception. You induce paranoia. That is asymmetrical warfare. You are the mouse, Midoriya. You cannot fight the cat. You must trick the cat into running into the wall. Part 4. The Chimera's Tea Party. Month 6. The seasons were changing. The air was getting colder. Training had shifted. Mornings were still trash-hauling with All Might, who was delighted by Izuku's growing muscles, but afternoons were becoming stranger. Izuku was currently sitting in the principal's office, but there was no chessboard. No computer. Just a tea set. Drink, Nezu said, pouring a cup. It's a blend I import from India. High caffeine content, excellent for synaptic firing. Izuku took the cup. His hands were covered in small bandages, cuts from the beach, scrapes from the simulations. Thank you, Principal. You are progressing well, Nezu said, stirring his own tea. Your grades at Aldera have improved, despite the faculty's attempts to sabotage them. I enjoyed the essay you wrote on the ethics of vigilantism. Your argument that Stain is a symptom of a commercialized hero's society rather than a random anomaly was provocative. I thought you might fail me for that one, Izuku admitted. I value logic, not conformity, Nezu said. He took a sip. Midoriya-kun. Do you know why I chose you? Izuku looked into his tea. Because I analyzed the sludge villain? Because All Might picked me? Partially. But mostly. Nezu touched the scar on his eye. Because you know what it is like to be a thing. Izuku looked up, startled. I am a chimera, Nezu said softly. A unique genetic mutation. Before you, I was not a principal. I was a specimen. Humans, they experimented on me. They burned me. They cut me. They wanted to see if the animal that could do calculus could also feel pain. Izuku's breath hitched. That's horrible. It was informative, Nezu said dryly. It taught me that humanity is arrogant. They believe power gives them the right to rule. They look at those who are different, the weak, the quirkless, the mutants, and they see resources. Or trash. Nezu looked at Izuku. You are quirkless. For 14 years, society told you that you were broken. That you were empty space. Trash to be discarded. Izuku nodded slowly. Yeah. Even the teachers, they just watched. Exactly, Nezu's eyes flashed with a dangerous light. We are the glitches, Midoriya. We are the variables they didn't account for. The rat who is smarter than the scientist. The quirkless boy who is more heroic than the pros. Nezu leaned forward. I am training you because I want to prove them wrong. I want to build a hero who doesn't fit their mold. A hero who forces the world to change its definition of strength. When you take one for all, you will have the power of the establishment, but you will have the mind of the outcast. That is a dangerous combination. Izuku felt a lump in his throat. For the first time, he realized Nezu wasn't just a teacher. He was lonely. He was a being of immense intellect with no peers, looking for someone who understood the view from the bottom of the ladder. I won't let you down, sir, Izuku said firmly. I'll be the glitch. Nezu smiled. It was a genuine smile this time. I know you will. Now, finish your tea. We have to discuss Japanese Civil Code Article 12 regarding quirk usage in self-defense scenarios. I plan for you to get sued at least 3 times in your career, and I want you to win without a lawyer. Part 5, Hacking the System, Month 8. Izuku was sitting in a darkened room, the blue light of a monitor reflecting in his eyes. His typing speed was blurring. Firewall breach in 10 seconds, Izuku muttered. Bypassing the proxy, injecting the SQL packet, and access granted. Stop, Nezu commanded. Izuku froze. Did I fail? No, you succeeded in hacking the mock-up of the UA's security grid, Nezu said. But you left a digital footprint. You routed your connection through a server in Seoul. A rookie mistake. But it was encrypted. Encryption is just a lock. Locks can be picked. Obfuscation is better, Nezu explained. Next time, bounce the signal through a dynamic botnet. Make it look like background noise. A hero doesn't just break in. He walks through the door without anyone noticing it was locked. Izuku sighed and rubbed his eyes. Principal, why do I need to know hacking? I'm going to be punching villains. Information is ammunition, Nezu said. What if the villain has a hostage in a hidden location? What if the bomb is controlled by a remote signal? What if you need to shut down the lights in a city block to disable a villain who absorbs solar energy? Nezu tapped the screen. Your fists can break walls. Your mind can turn off the lights. Which one causes less collateral damage? The mind, Izuku recited. Correct. Now, let's talk about the entrance exam. Izuku sat up straighter. Yes. The robots. The robots are trivial, Nezu waved a paw. Standard combat units. Weak points at the joints and sensory arrays. You can destroy them easily with one for all. But I expect more? More? I am on the grading committee, Nezu grinned. If you just smash robots, you will pass. You will get into Class 1A. But you will have failed my test. Izuku gulped. What is your test? Efficiency, Nezu said. The exam is a chaotic environment. Other students will be panicking. They will be fighting for points. It is a microcosm of society. I want you to dominate the battlefield, not by scoring the most points, but by controlling the flow. Nezu pulled up a map of the battle center B. I want you to map the area. Identify the choke points. Direct the civilians, the other students, away from danger. Use the environment to disable robots without touching them. Show me that you are not just a soldier, but a general. A general, Izuku repeated. And Midoriya? Yes? There is a 0-pointer. A massive gimmick. Most students run from it. Izuku recalled the notebook entry on massive opponents. Avoidance is the standard protocol. Standard protocol is for standard heroes, Nezu said cryptically. If you encounter the 0-pointer, analyze it. Ask yourself, why does it exist? What is its function in a test about heroism? Izuku frowned. A test about heroism. Running away saves yourself. But a hero, I understand, Izuku said. Part 6, The Completion, Month 10. The day before the exam, Dagoba Beach was unrecognizable. The mountains of trash were gone. In their place was pristine white sand, the ocean waves lapping gently at the shore. Izuku stood at the center of the beach. He was shirtless. The transformation was startling. The scrawny, trembling boy was gone. His muscles were dense, compact, and functional. Scars from the trash, and the paintball drone simulations, dotted his arms. But the biggest change was in his eyes. They weren't wide with panic anymore. They were focused. Analytical. They scanned the horizon, processing wind speed, light refraction, and potential threats instinctively. All Might stood beside him, tears streaming down his gaunt face. Oh my goodness! It's beautiful! You're beautiful! The beach is beautiful. It is acceptable, Nezu said from the railing of the boardwalk. Izuku turned to his mentors. I'm ready, he said. Indeed, All Might wiped his eyes. Young Midoriya, you have completed the vessel. You have eaten the hare months ago. The power has settled. Can you feel it? Izuku clenched his fist. He could feel it. A reservoir of energy, deep and terrifying, sitting in the pit of his stomach. I can feel it. It's loud. Control it, Nezu called out. Remember the egg in the microwave. Don't explode, Izuku nodded. Midoriya, Nezu hopped down to the sand. He looked tiny next to the newly buff Izuku. You have learned physics. You have learned psychology. You have learned law, hacking, and strategy. You are a weapon. Nezu extended a small paw. But remember this. A weapon is only as good as the hand that wields it. Don't let the power control you. You analyze the power. You tell it what to do. Izuku shook the paw. I will. Good. Nezu checked his watch. Now go home. Sleep for 8 hours. Eat a high-carbohydrate meal. If you are late for the exam tomorrow because you were up late reading hero forums, I will expel you before you even step through the gate. Yes, sir. Izuku grabbed his shirt and bag. He bowed deeply to All Might, then to Nezu. He turned and walked away, his steps light on the sand. As he walked, he pulled out his notebook, volume 14. It was nearly full. He flipped to the last page. He wrote a single header. Operation, UA entrance. Objective, secure admission. Secondary objective, 0 casualties. Tertiary objective, test the smasher variable, OFA, at 5% output. He closed the book. The logic gates were set. The inputs were ready. Tomorrow, the simulation ends. Tomorrow, reality begins. Epilogue. The note. Late that night, Nezu sat in his office at UA. The staff meeting for the entrance exam had just ended. Eraserhead, Aizawa Shota, had stayed behind. You're up to something, Aizawa grunted, his sleeping bag tucked under his arm. I am always up to something, Aizawa-kun. Nezu smiled pleasantly. That kid. The one on the beach. Midoriya. Aizawa narrowed his eyes. I saw the footage you archived. You've been training him personally. I have. You haven't taken a personal student in years. Not since, well, ever? Aizawa leaned against the doorframe. Why him? He looks plain. Plain is the best camouflage. Nezu poured himself a fresh cup of tea. The world is full of loud heroes, Aizawa. Heroes who announce their attacks. Heroes who shine so bright they cast long shadows. Nezu took a sip. I am building a hero who lives in the shadows they create. A hero who thinks faster than he punches. You of all people should appreciate that, Eraserhead, Aizawa huffed. Rationality is rare. If he's a logic type, he might actually survive my class. Assuming he passes? Oh, he will pass, Nezu said, his eyes glittering. The question is not if he passes. The question is, will the robots survive him? Nezu picked up a piece of paper from his desk. It was a drawing Izuku had made during one of their sessions. It was a schematic for defeating a giant villain using a spool of wire and a wet floor sign. The ecosystem is changing, Aizawa, Nezu whispered. And I have just introduced a new apex predator. Aizawa rolled his eyes and walked out. Just don't make him a villain, rat, Nezu watched the door close. He looked at the drawing. A villain? Nezu chuckled. No. But he will certainly be a nightmare for them. UA High School Archives, Security Level 5, File ID, UA Entrance Exam Year XX Center B, Subject, Midoriya Izuku, Status, Redacted. Note from Principal Nezu, the footage of this exam sector is to be sealed. Not because of its brutality, but because if future students see this, they will stop training their quirks and start training their lawyers. Also, it ruins the surprise. Part 1. The variable enters the system. The massive glass and steel structure of UA High School gleamed under the morning sun, a fortress of heroism that cast a long shadow over the thousands of hopefuls marching toward its gates. To most, the shadow was intimidating. It was the weight of legacy. To Izuku Midoriya, it was just a lighting condition that obscured visibility by approximately 20%. He walked through the crowd, his steps measured and rhythmic. He wore the standard black gakurin of Aldera Junior High, but it fit differently now. The fabric strained slightly against the dense, corded muscle of his shoulders, the result of 10 months of moving refrigerators and wrestling with physics. He didn't look around with the wide-eyed wonder of a fanba. He looked around with the scanning precision of a radar dish. Target density high. Average gate analysis suggests 60% of applicants are relying on emitter types. High centers of gravity. Overconfidence. Threat assessment, low to moderate. Out of my way, Deku. The growl came from behind him. Izuku didn't flinch. He didn't jump. He simply calculated the trajectory of the voice, adjusted his step 3 inches to the right, and allowed Katsuki Bakugo to stomp past him without making contact. Bakugo paused, his red eyes narrowing. He had expected the flinch. He had expected the stutter. The lack of reaction was insulting. Don't ignore me, you pebble! Bakugo barked, small explosions popping in his palms. Izuku stopped. He adjusted the strap of his backpack, which contained a spare change of clothes, 3 protein bars, and a condensed copy of the UA structural blueprints he had memorized the night before. I'm conserving energy, Kaken, Izuku said calmly. He looked at Bakugo not with fear, but with a clinical detachment that Nezu had drilled into him. Getting angry raises your heart rate and burns glucose. The written exam starts in 20 minutes. Hypoglycemia affects cognitive recall. I suggest you eat a banana. Bakugo's jaw dropped. Before he could scream, Izuku had already merged back into the flow of the crowd, vanishing like a ghost in the machine. Izuku took a deep breath. One interaction survived. Cortisol levels stable. Proceed to checkpoint. As he walked, he spotted a girl with a bob-cut stumble on the cobblestone. Variable, tripping hazard. Outcome, impact with pavement. Potential wrist sprain. Exam performance compromise 15%. Izuku moved. He didn't run, he shifted his weight and accelerated. He caught the girl by the elbow, using his other hand to stabilize her backpack, effectively counterbalancing her momentum. Whoa! The girl blinked, floating slightly as she touched herself. I'm okay. Thanks. It's my quirk. I made myself light to stop the fall, but I overdid it. Zero gravity, Izuku muttered instantly. Nullification of gravitational pull. Be careful. Reduced weight means reduced friction. On this smooth pavement, your stopping distance is increased. The girl stared at him. Right. I'm Uraraka Ochako. Good luck, Midoriya Izuku. Luck is a statistical anomaly. Prepare well. He walked away, leaving a confused Uraraka behind. Inside his mind, the voice of Nezu cackled. Excellent. Social interaction kept to minimum necessary duration. Empathy displayed, but logistics prioritized. Part 2, the auditorium anomaly. The orientation hall was dark, illuminated only by the spotlight on present Mike. The voice hero was screaming, "Everybody say hey!" Silence. Tough crowd. Mike shrugged. All right, examinees. Let's get to the main show. You'll be conducting 10-minute mock urban battles. You can bring whatever you want. After this, you'll head to your specified battle center. On the screen behind him, the silhouette of 3 robots appeared. Izuku sat in the darkness, his eyes locked on the screen. He wasn't listening to the hype. He was reading the fine print. Robots. 1-pointer, speed, 2-pointer, defense, 3-pointer, power, design, based on old Russian military prototypes mixed with sci-fi aesthetics. Exposed cabling likely at the joints to allow for articulation. Objective, immobilization or destruction. Excuse me. May I ask a question? A tall boy with glasses and blue hair stood up, his hand chopping the air like a guillotine. A spotlight hit him. There are 4 robot silhouettes on this handout. If this is a printing error, UA should be ashamed. We are here to be molded into exemplary heroes. The boy spun around and pointed a finger directly at Izuku. And you, the curly-haired boy. You've been muttering this whole time. It's distracting. If you're here on a field trip, you should leave immediately. The auditorium went silent. All eyes turned to Izuku. The old Izuku would have died of embarrassment. He would have apologized and curled into a ball, but the high-spec successor sat still. He tapped his pen against his chin. Interruption analysis. The boy is rigid. Rules-oriented. High respect for authority. Low tolerance for deviation. He perceives my analysis as noise. Izuku stood up. He didn't shout. He projected his voice from his diaphragm, a technique Nezu taught him to command a room without screaming. I apologize if my processing speed is disturbing you, Izuku said, his voice cutting through the silence. However, regarding the 4th silhouette, if you had read the previous year's exam reports, which are public record in the library archives, you would know that UA always employs a gimmick obstacle, an arena trap. It is likely a 0-point obstacle intended to test avoidance rather than combat. Izuku adjusted his collar. Furthermore, interrupting a briefing to chastise another student is inefficient. You are wasting present mix time, and by extension, the time of everyone in this room. Please sit down. The silence that followed was heavy. The blue-haired boy, Ida Tenya, turned red, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. Oh, present mic broke the tension. Yeah. The listener is correct. That's the 0-pointer. It's just an obstacle. Avoid it. Good catch. Examinee 2234. Izuku sat down. He felt a bead of sweat roll down his back, but his face remained impassive. Status, dominance asserted. Social target painted on back. Acceptable trade-off for tactical clarity. Part 3. Battle Center B. The calm before. The bus ride to Battle Center B was quiet. Izuku sat near the back. He could feel the gaze of the blue-haired boy Ida, burning into the side of his head. Izuku closed his eyes. He visualized the map of the city he had seen on the screen. Industrial zone. Narrow alleys. High verticality. Good for mobility quirks. Bad for large-scale emitters who need line of sight. He reached into his pocket and touched the small, customized earpiece Nezu had given him. It wasn't electronic, that would be cheating. It was just a molded piece of plastic that dampened high-frequency noise, allowing him to focus. He felt the hum in his stomach. One for all. He had it. The power of the symbol of peace. But Nezu's warning echoed in his ears. You are a Ferrari engine in a bicycle frame, Midoriya. If you use 100% you shatter. If you use 0% you die. You must find the balance. But for today, don't use the engine. Use the steering. The bus stopped. The students poured out to face a massive gate. Beyond it lay a replica of a city district. Izuku stood at the front of the pack. He began to stretch. Dynamic movements. Lunges. Rotations. Uraraka approached him nervously. Hey, I'm Midoriya, right? That was intense in the auditorium. Are you okay? I am calibrated, Izuku said, checking his shoelaces. Uraraka-san, listen. Your quirk removes weight. These robots operate on hydraulics and gyroscopes. If you remove the weight of their chassis, their internal pistons will fire with too much force, causing them to tear themselves apart. You don't need to smash them. Just touch them and let physics do the rest. Uraraka blinked, her eyes widening. Wait, really? I don't have to throw them? Efficiency. Izuku tapped his temple. And start. Present mixed voice boomed from the tower. What's wrong? There are no countdowns in real fights. Run. Run. The die is cast. While the other students were still processing the lack of a 3-2-1 countdown, Izuku was already a blur of motion. He didn't hesitate. Nezu had thrown paintballs at him while he slept. He was used to sudden starts. He sprinted through the open gate, his speed surprising even himself. The conditioning at the beach had made him fast. Not all might fast, but faster than any unenhanced human had a right to be, first into the fray. First to secure position. Part 4 Asymmetrical Warfare. Izuku turned the first corner onto Main Street. 3 one-pointers, fast strike models, single wheelbase, rolled out from an alley, their sensors lighting up red. Target acquired. Izuku didn't slow down. He analyzed. Weakness, single wheel. Gyroscopic balance required. Exposed sensor array on the head. He didn't punch. He saw a loose metal pipe protruding from a construction site barrier on his left. He grabbed it without stopping, his grip strength bending the metal slightly. As the first robot lunged, Izuku slid. He dropped to his knees, sliding on his shin guards, reinforced Nezu's gift. He thrust the metal pipe not at the robot's armor, but into the gap between the wheel and the axle. Crunch! The pipe jammed the rotation. The robot's momentum carried it forward, but the wheel stopped. It flipped violently face first into the pavement, shattering its own sensor array. 1 point. Izuku rolled to his feet. The other 2 robots hesitated, a programming flaw Nezu had predicted. Delay in reassessing threat levels. Izuku grabbed a handful of gravel from the ground. He threw it, not at the robots, but at a parked car behind them. The sound of rocks hitting metal triggered their audio sensors. They turned. Izuku closed the distance. He leaped onto the back of the second robot. He found the manual emergency shut-off switch, a small red lever mandated by safety regulations for all autonomous machinery. Click. The robot powered down instantly. 2 points. The third robot turned to fire its rubber bullets. Izuku used the powered-down robot as a shield. The bullets bounced off the armor. Izuku pushed the dead robot over, toppling it onto the third one. The weight crushed the third robot's delicate antenna. 3 points. Izuku stood up, dusting off his hands. He hadn't used a drop of one for all. Time elapsed, 45 seconds. Score 3. Status, warming up. In the observation room, the teachers of UA sat in the darkened amphitheater, watching the screens. This year's crop is spirited, Midnight commented, watching Bakugo blow up a building to get to a 3-pointer. There's a lot of raw power, Cementos agreed. But little finesse. Look at screen B4, Eraser had said, his voice bored but his eyes sharp. The teachers looked. They saw a green-haired boy running up the side of a building using a fire escape, not to flee, but to get high ground. He dropped a heavy potted plant onto a 2-pointer's head, smashing its visual receptor, then jumped down to finish it with a precise kick to the battery pack. He has no quirk, Snipe noted, checking the file. Or, wait, it says superpower here, but he hasn't used it. He fights like he wrote the manual on those robots, Vlad King grunted. Who is he? In the back of the room, Principal Nezu sat in his high chair, sipping tea. His tail twitched with delight. He is an experiment in logic, Nezu cackled softly. Watch closely. He isn't fighting the robots. He is fighting the programmers. Back in Battle Center B, the exam was halfway through. The city was a war zone. Explosions rocked the air. Izuku was panting, sweat dripping down his nose. He had accumulated 38 points. It was a solid score, but he knew the cutoff was usually higher. He turned a corner and saw Ida surrounded by 3 3-pointers. The engine-legged boy was holding his own, kicking fast, but he was getting boxed in. Variable, ally in distress, technically rival, but cooperation yields higher survival rates. Izuku scanned the environment. A water tower on the roof above them. The support leg was rusted. 4 eyes. Izuku yelled, using the nickname Bakugo used, simply because it was the fastest way to get attention. Kick the robot on the left toward the wall. Do it now! Ida, startled by the command, reacted instinctively. Do not call me, he kicked the robot. It slammed into the wall. Izuku picked up a discarded rebar pole and threw it like a javelin. It didn't hit a robot. It hit the rusted bolt of the water tower support leg. The leg buckled. The water tower groaned and tilted. Move! Izuku screamed. Ida engaged his engines and zoomed out of the kill zone. The water tower crashed down, crushing the remaining 2 3-pointers in a deluge of water and metal. Ida stared at the wreckage, then at Izuku standing on a car hood. You calculated the structural integrity of the tower? Rust oxidation reduces load-bearing capacity by 40%, Izuku recited rapidly. You were struggling with their armor. Environmental damage ignores armor class. Keep moving, you're wasting time. Izuku sprinted away. Ida stood there for a second, adjusting his glasses. He is incredibly efficient. Part 5, the zero-pointer event. With 2 minutes left, the ground began to shake. It wasn't a rumble. It was an earthquake. The asphalt cracked. Buildings swayed. From the center of the district it rose. The zero-pointer. It was colossal. Taller than the skyscrapers. A mechanical god of destruction with treads the size of houses. Its mere movement generated wind pressure that knocked students off their feet. What is that? A student screamed. It's the gimmick! Run! The crowd of examinees turned into a stampede. They ran away from the monster, pushing and shoving. Izuku stood frozen for a split second. His brain screamed, run! Survival probability in direct confrontation is 0.0001%. But then he heard it. A pained cry. Ouch! Izuku turned. In the middle of the debris field, Uraraka was trapped. A piece of the water tower he had brought down earlier, or similar debris, had pinned her leg. The zero-pointer was looming over her, its massive tread descending. The other students were running away. They didn't see her. Or they ignored her. Logic gate, if I run I survive. She dies. Logic gate, if I save her, I risk death. But I am a hero. Nezu's voice in his head, sacrifice is inefficient, Midoriya. Unless the value of the asset saved exceeds the cost of the asset lost. Or unless you change the variables so that sacrifice is unnecessary. Izuku didn't run away. He ran toward the Titan. Wait! Don't! Ida yelled from the crowd. It's suicide! Izuku didn't hear him. The world narrowed down to a tunnel. Target, zero-pointer. Size, 80 meters. Weakness, none apparent on armor. Observation, it is electric. It has glowing green conduits running up the neck. Izuku reached the debris pinning Uraraka. He grabbed the concrete slab. He pulled. It wouldn't budge. It was too heavy, even for his beach muscles. Go! Uraraka cried, her face pale. Run! No, Izuku snarled. He looked up. The robot was raising a fist to smash the street. I can't move the rock in time. I have to stop the robot. Izuku looked at his legs. He felt the hum of One for All. All Might said clench my buttocks and yell smash. Nezu said don't be an idiot. I need propulsion. I need a scalpel. Izuku crouched. He channeled the power. Not into his whole body. He knew he would explode. He tried to picture the egg in the microwave not bursting. 5%. Just 5%. The red veins of energy crackled across his legs. One for all, full cowl. Ignition! He hadn't named it yet, but the feeling was there. He jumped. The pavement shattered beneath him. He rocketed upward, soaring past the robot's knee, past its waist. The wind roared in his ears. He was flying. He reached the head level. The robot's massive red eye focused on him. Izuku didn't punch the face. Nezu had taught him better. The face is a distraction. Look for the power source. On the back of the robot's neck, shielded by a metal grate, was a thick bundle of pulsating cables. The central nervous system. Izuku spun in the air. He channeled the power away from his legs and into his right hand. Then, he focused it all into his middle finger and thumb. I don't need to blow it up. I just need to cut the cord. Detroit. Flick! He snapped his fingers with the force of a cannon. The air pressure blast was concentrated, a spear of wind rather than a hammer. It pierced the metal grate. It sliced through the main power coupling. Snap! Sparks the size of fireworks showered down. The hum of the zero-pointer died instantly. The lights in its eyes went black. The massive machine groaned, its momentum halting. It began to tilt backward, away from Uraraka. Izuku fell, gravity took hold. He was falling from 80 meters. Analysis. Both legs broken from the takeoff? No. Just strained. Right arm? The finger is purple. Broken. But the arm is intact. He was conscious. He was calculating. Impact velocity, terminal. Survival chance, low. Slap. Suddenly, a hand touched his cheek. He stopped falling. He floated. Uraraka, having freed herself while the robot stalled, was floating on a piece of debris she had levitated. She vomited a rainbow, but she held on to him. Release. She pressed her fingers together. They dropped the last 3 feet into the dust. Izuku landed, rolling to protect his broken finger. He lay on his back, staring at the blue sky. The silence was deafening. Then, the buzzer sounded. Time's up. Part 6, the score. The smoke cleared. Izuku sat up, clutching his swollen, purple finger. Recovery Girl was already making her way through the crowd, handing out gummies. The other students gathered around, whispering. Did you see that? He took down the 0-pointer with a flick, but he didn't use a quirk the whole time before that. Is he a sleeper? Ida walked up to Izuku. He looked at the broken finger, then at the deactivated giant behind them. He bowed deeply, a perfect 90-degree angle. I misjudged you. Ida shouted. I thought you were analyzing to cheat. But you were assessing the threat level. You realized the true nature of the test was self-sacrifice. Izuku blinked, fighting the pain in his hand. Actually, the true nature was likely asset protection, but sure. Here, Sonny, Recovery Girl arrived, kissing his finger. Nasty break. You used a lot of power in a very small space. But you didn't shatter your arm. That's an improvement over what I usually see from this type of quirk. Izuku sighed as his stamina drained away. Nezu told me to be a scalpel. Well, Recovery Girl chuckled, you were a very loud scalpel. 1 week later. The Midoriya apartment. Izuku sat at his desk. The envelope was heavy. He opened it. A holographic disc fell out. It activated, projecting an image onto the wall. It wasn't All Might. It was Nezu. The principal was sitting at a desk, surrounded by cheese wheels. Greetings, Midoriya-kun. Nezu chirped. Principal? Izuku whispered. Usually, All Might delivers these, but I insisted on the honor, Nezu said. Let's review the data. A scoreboard appeared. Villain points, 45. Ranking 7th. Izuku's heart sank. 45 points? It was good, but was it enough? A respectable score, Nezu nodded. You dismantled the robots with exceptional efficiency. You saved energy. You utilized the environment. However, the screen shifted. It showed video footage. It showed Izuku pushing the robot onto the other one. It showed him directing Ida. It showed him catching Uraraka before the exam even started. And finally, it showed him snapping the 0-pointer's neck. A hero is not just a destroyer, Nezu said, his voice soft. A hero is a stabilizer. You brought order to chaos. You commanded allies. You prioritized life over points. The entrance exam has a hidden metric, Nezu revealed. Rescue points. The numbers rolled up. Rescue points, 60. Total score, 105. Izuku gasped. This is the highest score recorded in 5 years, Nezu grinned. You didn't just pass, Midoriya-kun. You dominated the logic of the exam. On the screen, Nezu extended a paw. You have the brawn. You have the brains. Welcome to your hero academia. The hologram faded. Izuku sat there, tears streaming down his face. He looked at his hand. The finger was healed, but a faint scar remained. He picked up his phone. He typed a message to a contact labeled Teacher Mouse. Mission accomplished. A second later, a reply came. Acceptable. Report to my office Monday at 0700. We need to discuss the structural repair costs of the 0-pointer. Bring your checkbook. Joke. Izuku smiled, wiping his eyes. The real test was just beginning. The first day of UA High School was not marked by sunshine or rainbows. It was marked by a lingering sense of doom that hung over the 1A classroom like a humid storm cloud. Izuku Midoriya sat in seat number 18. He was vibrating. Not with nervousness, well, perhaps 15% nervousness, but mostly with the anticipation of a machine that has been fully fueled and is waiting for the start command. His uniform was crisp. His tie was tied with a perfect Windsor knot, courtesy of a tutorial Nezu had sent him at 3 a.m. On his desk sat a notebook, a pen, and a stopwatch. "Get your feet off the desk," the familiar voice of Tenya Ida cut through the chatter. He was scolding Katsuki Bakugo, who was currently reclining with the casual arrogance of a king on a throne of gunpowder. "Ha!" Bakugo sneered. "Don't tell me what to do, Four Eyes. What junior high did you go to anyway? Some elite snob factory? I attended semi-private academy." Ida chopped the air. "And my name is Ida Tenya. Semi? So you're a damn elite." Bakugo grinned savagely. "I'll enjoy crushing you." "Crushing me? You're awful. Do you truly wish to be a hero?" Izuku watched the exchange, his eyes darting between them. Bakugo, hostility levels steady. Posturing for dominance. Ida, moral rigidity absolute. Susceptible to provocation due to high standards. Conclusion, they are oil and water. Volatile mix. The door slid open. "If you're just here to make friends, you can pack up your stuff and leave." The voice was tired, dry, and distinctly unimpressed. The class froze. Lying on the floor in a yellow sleeping bag, like a caterpillar emerging from a very depressing cocoon, was a man. He had long, messy black hair, bloodshot eyes, and a scarf made of some gray, fibrous material. He stood up, shedding the sleeping bag. He pulled a pouch of juice jelly from his pocket and slurped it. "It took you 8 seconds to quiet down," the man said, checking a stopwatch. "Time is limited. You kids aren't rational enough." Izuku stiffened. Aizawa Shota. Hero name, Eraserhead. Quirk, Erasure. Combat style, capture/subdual. Personality, logical, minimalistic, ruthless efficient. Nezu had briefed him. "Aizawa-kun hates wasted potential. He expelled an entire class last year because he deemed them irrational. Do not give him a reason to purge you." "I'm your homeroom teacher, Aizawa Shota," the man drawled. "Nice to meet you," the class gasped. "Homeroom teacher?" Aizawa reached into his sleeping bag and pulled out a stack of blue gym uniforms. "Put these on and head out to the grounds." "What about the entrance ceremony? The orientation?" Uraraka asked, raising her hand. "If you're going to become a hero, you don't have time for such leisurely events," Aizawa said, turning his back. UA's selling point is freedom on campus. That applies to the teachers as well. He glanced over his shoulder, his dark eyes landing squarely on Izuku. Softball throw. Standing long jump. 50-meter dash. Endurance run. Grip strength. Upper body lift. Toe touch. Sit-ups. You did these in middle school, right? No quirks allowed. Aizawa smirked. The country still insists on prohibiting quirks when calculating the averages of those records. It's not rational. The Department of Education is procrastinating. He pointed at Bakugo. "Bakugo, you finished first in the entrance exam. In junior high, what was your best result for the softball throw?" 67 meters, Bakugo grunted. "Try doing it with your quirk." They moved to the field. Bakugo stepped into the circle. "You can do whatever you want as long as you stay in the circle," Aizawa instructed. "Hurry up. Give it all you've got." Bakugo stretched his arms. He grinned. Die! Boom! The ball rocketed into the sky, propelled by a massive explosion. Aizawa held up his device. 705.2 meters. The class erupted. "Awesome! 705 meters? Are you kidding? We can use our quirks as much as we want. This is gonna be fun." Aizawa's expression darkened. The air temperature seemed to drop. "Fun?" he repeated. "You have 3 years to become a hero. Will you have an attitude like that the whole time?" He smiled. It was a wide, terrifying grin that didn't reach his eyes. "All right. Whoever comes in last place in all 8 tests will be judged to have no potential, and will be punished with expulsion." The students shrieked. "Expulsion? It's the first day. That's too unreasonable," Uraraka cried. "Natural disasters, big accidents, and selfish villains," Aizawa listed. "Calamities whose time or place can't be predicted. Japan is covered with unfairness. Heroes are the ones who reverse those situations. He brushed his hair back. If you wanted to go hang out at Mickey D's after school, you're at the wrong place. For the next 3 years, UA will do all it can to give you one hardship after another. Go beyond. Plus ultra. He pointed a finger at the group. Overcome it with all you've got. Izuku took a deep breath. He looked at his hands. Expulsion. It was a logical threat. Aizawa wanted to weed out the weak. He wanted to see who would break under pressure. Izuku looked at the other students. They were scared. Even Bakugo looked tense. Izuku wasn't scared. He was calculating. Test 1, 50-meter dash. Izuku lined up against Ida. On your mark, get set. Gunshot. Ida was a blur. His engines roared. 3.04 seconds. Izuku didn't use one for all. Not yet. He relied on the explosive power of his legs, the muscles built by hauling safes through sand. He sprinted with perfect form, head down, arms pumping. 5.51 seconds. It wasn't superhuman. But for a quirkless run, it was athletic. Respectable, Aizawa muttered, marking his clipboard. Test 2, grip strength. Izuku squeezed the dynamometer. 56 kilograms. Next to him, a boy with multiple arms, Shoji, scored 540 kilograms. Izuku didn't panic. He wasn't competing with the mutants on raw stats. He was competing against the baseline. Test 3, standing long jump. Izuku channeled 2% of one for all into his calves. Just a flicker. Enough to assist the jump without breaking the bone. He cleared the sandbox. Clearing distance, Bakugo blasted across. Aoyama used his naval laser to fly across. Test 4, repeated side steps. Izuku used the footwork drills Nezu had taught him. Left right. He moved like a boxer. Fast, rhythmic. Score above average. Then came the main event. Test 5, the ball throw. Uraraka went up. She threw the ball. It floated. And floated. Aizawa showed the device, infinity. The class lost their minds. Infinity? That's insane. Next was Izuku. He walked into the circle. He held the ball. He could feel the eyes on him. Bakugo was glaring daggers. Aizawa was watching with the intensity of a hawk. Analysis. If I use 100%, I break my arm. I get a high score, but I'm injured for the rest of the tests. Result. Expulsion due to inability to complete subsequent tasks. If I use 0%, I get 46 meters. Result. Bottom of the class. Expulsion risk high. Objective. Maximum distance, minimum damage. Izuku took a stance. He wound up. He channeled one for all. Not into his whole arm. Focus. Scalpel. He moved his arm like a whip. At the very last moment, the millisecond before the ball left his fingertips, he funneled 100% of the power into the tip of his index finger. Smash! The air cracked. A shockwave blasted dust into the air, but the ball dropped. It rolled about 3 meters. What? Izuku blinked. His finger wasn't broken. But the ball hadn't flown. He looked at Aizawa. The teacher's hair was floating. His scarf was levitating. His eyes were glowing red. I erased your quirk, Aizawa said flatly. The class went silent. That entrance exam was definitely not rational enough. Aizawa walked closer, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper. Even a kid like you was accepted. You erased it? Izuku asked calmly. From what I saw, you can't control your quirk, can you? Aizawa loomed over him. Do you intend to become incapacitated again and have someone save you? That's not my intention, Izuku said. Whatever your intention, Aizawa interrupted, you're just a liability. In the past, there was an oppressively passionate hero who saved over 1,000 people by himself and created a legend. Even if you have the same reckless valor, you'll just be a decked-out doll after saving one person. Aizawa leaned in, his face inches from Izuku's. Izuku Midoriya. With your power, you can't become a hero. He blinked. His hair fell. I've returned your quirk. You have 2 throws left. Hurry up and get it over with. Izuku stood there. The words stung. You can't become a hero. But then, he remembered Nezu's voice. Intimidation is a tool, Midoriya. He is trying to provoke an emotional response to cloud your judgment. Prove him wrong with data. Izuku looked at the ball. He looked at Aizawa. He thinks I'm reckless. He thinks I'm a glass cannon. Izuku smiled. It was faint, but it was there. Recalculate. He picked up the ball. He stepped back into the circle. He didn't wind up for a smash this time. He stood loose. Wind speed, 3 meters per second northeast. Ball weight, standard. Finger integrity, 100%. He began to mutter. If I apply the force at a 45-degree angle, utilize the Magnus effect, concentrate the propulsion only at the point of release. Bakugo frowned. What is he doing? Izuku moved. He whipped his arm. It looked like a pitcher's throw. Fast. Fluid. At the release point, he didn't just push. He snapped. One for all, finger flick air bullet variant. Boom. A concentrated blast of air pressure exploded from his index finger. It hit the ball not with a blunt impact, but with a piercing force. The ball screamed into the sky, cutting through the wind resistance. Izuku didn't break his arm. He didn't even break the finger. The finger was swollen, throbbing, bruised purple, a microfracture, perhaps, but it wasn't shattered. He could still move it. The ball disappeared into the clouds. Aizawa looked at his device. He stared at it for a second longer than usual. He turned the screen to the class. 705.3 meters. 0.1 meters farther than Bakugo. The class gasped. Izuku clenched his bruised hand into a fist. He looked at Aizawa, his eyes burning with defiance. Teacher, Izuku said, his voice steady. I can still move. Aizawa's eyes widened slightly. A slow, creepy grin spread across his face. Ho! DKU! An explosion of rage interrupted the moment. Bakugo charged, palms crackling. What the hell was that? Tell me what's going on, you bastard! He was fast. He was lethal. He was going to kill him. Izuku didn't flinch. He didn't activate one for all. He saw the attack coming. Right hook. Standard Bakugo opening. Izuku dropped his center of gravity. He stepped into the guard, grabbing Bakugo's forearm with his left hand and using his own momentum to pivot. Judo throw, Nage. Before Bakugo could detonate, he found himself flying through the air. He slammed onto the dirt with a heavy thud. It wasn't a quirk. It was pure martial arts, drilled into Izuku by Nezu's practical application sessions with the UA's security bots. Bakugo lay there, winded, staring up at the sky. Izuku stood over him, not triumphantly, but calmly. I told you, Kaken, Izuku said softly. Anger makes you predictable. Suddenly, Aizawa's capture scarf wrapped around both of them. That's enough, Aizawa growled. His hair was up again. Don't make me use my quirk so much. I have dry eye. He released them. We're moving to the next test. Midoriya, go get that finger iced, but hurry back. Izuku nodded. He walked away, nursing his hand. He could feel Aizawa's eyes on his back. He could feel the class staring at him with a mix of awe and fear. But mostly, he felt satisfied. Variable, Aizawa's bias. Status, challenged. Variable, Bakugo's dominance. Status, destabilized. The locker room. After the tests, the class was buzzing. Midoriya, that was amazing. Kirishima, the redhead with the hardening quirk, slapped him on the back. You threw the ball like a cannon, and then you flipped Bakugo. So manly. Your finger looks painful though, Ajiri, Tsuyu, pointed out. Is it broken? Just a fracture, Izuku said, wrapping it with tape he had in his bag. I can still use the other fingers. So, Ida approached, adjusting his glasses. Who do you think was expelled? The room went quiet. It was probably Mineta, someone whispered. He did badly on the run. The results were posted on a hologram in the hallway. 1. Yairo Zamomo. 2. Todoroki Shoto. 3. Bakugo Katsuki. 4. Ida Tenya. 5. Midoriya Izuku. 20. Mineta Minoru. Izuku blinked. 5th place. He had scored average on the sprints and grip strength, but his ball throw, jumps, assisted, and toe touches, extreme flexibility from yoga, had pulled him up. Mineta is out? Kaminari gasped. Aizawa appeared behind them. By the way, he said, scratching his neck. The expulsion was a logical ruse. Huh? The class screamed. It was a deception to draw out the upper limits of your potential, Aizawa said deadpan. I knew it. Yaoyorozu clapped her hands. It was obviously a pedagogical technique. The others slumped in relief. That scared me to death. Izuku looked at Aizawa. He narrowed his eyes. Analysis. Aizawa is not the type to joke. He has expelled students before. The archives confirm it. 154 expulsions on record. Teacher, Izuku spoke up. Aizawa paused. What? It wasn't a lie, was it? Izuku asked quietly. If one of us had shown zero potential, if we had given up, you would have expelled us. Truly. Aizawa stopped. He turned slowly to look at Izuku. The shadow covered his eyes. That is correct, Aizawa said softly. UA is not a playground. We are the filter. If you are dregs, you are discarded. He smirked at Izuku. You survived the filter, Midoriya. For now. Don't get comfortable. He walked away. Izuku watched him go. He's testing us constantly. Every word is a trap. Every silence is an observation. Izuku smiled. Just like Nezu, teacher's lounge. Aizawa slumped into his chair. He pulled out a nutrient jelly. So? All Might popped his head around the corner. He was in his small form, looking anxious. How was he? Young Midoriya? He's a problem child, Aizawa grunted. Oh no! Did he break his bones? He broke a finger, Aizawa said. But that's not what I mean. He's reckless, yes. But he's also calculating. Aizawa pulled up the tablet with the student data. He knew I erased his quirk. He didn't panic. He adjusted his strategy instantly. And that throw, he minimized the output to the exact threshold needed to surpass Bakugo without destroying his arm. Aizawa looked at All Might. And he flipped Bakugo using a judo throw that requires perfect timing. Where did he learn that? All Might sweated nervously. Well, he's been training very hard. Humph. Aizawa closed his eyes. And then there's the logical ruse. He called me out on it. He knew I was serious about the expulsion. Most students just buy the lie because it comforts them. Aizawa sighed. He doesn't seek comfort. He seeks truth. It's annoying, but? All Might prompted, but Aizawa opened one eye. He has potential. Zero potential is a lie. He has infinite potential. All Might beamed. I told you, don't get cocky, Aizawa snapped. He still has zero control. And that finger won't last forever. If he relies on self-harm to win, I'll expel him myself. The next day, hero basic training. I am here. All Might burst through the door in his Silver Age costume. Coming through the door like a hero, the class cheered. It's All Might. He looks so cool. Today, All Might posed, we will be doing combat training. He pressed a button, and shelves slid out of the wall containing briefcases. Costumes. Izuku grabbed case number 18. 10 minutes later, ground beta. The students emerged from the tunnel. They looked incredible. Armors, capes, gadgets. And then there was Izuku. He stepped out into the light. His costume was green, yes. But it wasn't the spandex jumpsuit he had originally drawn. It was tactical gear. He wore dark green cargo pants reinforced with Kevlar pads. A fitted armored vest covered his chest. He wore heavy combat boots with steel toes. On his utility belt were pouches containing capture tape, flashlights, and a few undisclosed gadgets. He wore a metal mouthguard, a nod to his original design smile, but functional for protection. His hood was down. Midoriya! Uraraka ran over. She looked like a cute astronaut. Your costume looks so serious. Function over form, Izuku said, adjusting his gloves. These gloves have air pressure dampeners. Nezu's gift. All Might cleared his throat. Excellent. You all look cool. Now, here is the scenario. Villains have hidden a nuclear weapon in the hideout. The heroes must go in and secure it or capture the villains. 2-on-2 battles. He drew lots. Team A, heroes Midoriya, Izuku, Uraraka, Ochako. Team B, villains Bakugo, Katsuki, Ida, Tenya. Izuku froze. It's happening. He looked across the courtyard. Bakugo was staring at him. He wasn't yelling. He was just vibrating with a silent, terrifying rage. Ida was adjusting his helmet. It is unfortunate we must be villains, Bakugo-kun, but we must play the role to perfection. Shut up, Bakugo growled. I'm just gonna kill him. The setup. Ida and Bakugo entered the building. They went to the top floor. Bakugo-kun, Ida started. We should barricade the door and… I'm going down, Bakugo said, walking toward the door. What? Leaving the objective undefended is poor strategy. That nerd, Bakugo spat. He's got some trick. I'm gonna blast it out of him. Bakugo left. Ida sighed. Very well. I shall guard the weapon alone. I will become the ultimate villain. Outside, Izuku and Uraraka studied the blueprints. Uraraka-san, Izuku said. Kaken will come for me. 100% probability. You sound sure, Uraraka said nervously. He has an inferiority complex regarding me specifically. My performance yesterday triggered it. He wants to prove he is superior in combat. Izuku tapped the map. He will attack directly. He won't care about the nuke. That leaves Ida alone upstairs. So we fight Bakugo together? Uraraka asked. No, Izuku said firmly. If we both fight him, we waste time. And his explosions in a confined hallway are dangerous for you. Izuku looked at her. I will draw his aggro. I will lead him away. You will use your zero gravity to float up the exterior or through the ventilation shaft if possible. Get to the weapon. But, can you beat him alone? Uraraka asked. Izuku tightened his gloves. I don't have to beat him, Izuku said, a glint in his eye. I just have to outlast him. Start. They entered the building. The hallway was dark. Silent. Step. Step. Izuku stopped. Duck. He grabbed Uraraka and pulled her behind a pillar just as an explosion ripped around the corner. Boom. Bakugo emerged from the smoke, grinning like a demon. Found you, Deku. He lunged. Right hook. Izuku didn't use one for all. He ducked under the swing. He grabbed Bakugo's arm, using the capture tape he had already prepared in his hand. He tried to wrap it. Bakugo blasted with his other hand. Izuku leaped back. Uraraka, go! Izuku yelled. Uraraka sprinted past them. Don't ignore me! Bakugo tried to chase her. Izuku threw a small metal ball, a flash bang, low yield, training grade. Bang! Bakugo flinched, blinding him for a second. Your opponent is me, Kaken. Izuku taunted. Or are you scared to fight the quirkless kid? It was a low blow. It was psychological manipulation. Nezu would be proud, Bakugo roared. He forgot about Uraraka. He turned his full, unadulterated fury on Izuku. I'll kill you! Izuku ran. He didn't run away. He ran into the maze of the building. Lure him into the trap. He ran into a room with many pillars. Bakugo blasted the door down. Stop running, coward! I'm not running, Izuku's voice echoed from the shadows. I'm positioning. Bakugo fired blindly. Explosions rocked the room. Izuku watched from the ceiling. He was wedged between two pipes, holding his breath. He's angry. He's sloppy. He's using big swings. Izuku dropped. He landed behind Bakugo. He didn't punch. He kicked the back of Bakugo's knee. Bakugo buckled. Izuku grabbed Bakugo's right gauntlet, the one storing the sweat. Get off! Bakugo swung his left arm. Izuku ducked. He remembered the notebook. Bakugo always leads with a right. If that fails, he counters with a left swing. He leaves his torso exposed. Izuku slammed his shoulder into Bakugo's ribs. It wasn't super strength. It was just physics. Bakugo stumbled back. You've been reading my moves? Bakugo growled. I've been watching you for 10 years, Kaken, Izuku said, standing in a combat stance. I have a notebook dedicated to you. Creepy! Bakugo screamed. He raised his gauntlet. He pulled the pin. Young Bakugo, stop! All Might's voice came over the comms. That attack will kill him. He won't die if he dodges. Click. The massive explosion fired. A tunnel of fire engulfed the hallway. Izuku didn't dodge. He punched the air. Detroit. Smash! He punched upward. The air pressure from the smash met the explosion. The force vectors collided. The ceiling collapsed. Debris rained down, creating a wall between them. The smoke cleared. Izuku was gone. Where are you? Bakugo screamed, blasting the rubble. He heard a static crackle on his comms. It was Izuku. But he wasn't talking to Bakugo. He was talking to Uraraka. Uraraka-san. Now, upstairs, Uraraka had reached the weapon room. Ida was monologuing to himself, cleaning the weapon. A hero would never suspect. Wait, what is that sound? The floor beneath Ida exploded. Izuku smashed through the floorboards from the level below. What? Ida gasped. Capture tape. Izuku yelled. He wasn't aiming for Ida. He threw the tape roll at a jagged piece of the broken floor, creating a tripwire. Ida stepped back to dodge Izuku's punch and tripped. Uraraka leaped from the pillar she was hiding behind. Comet home run! She grabbed a piece of debris and batted it at Ida. Ida blocked it. While he was distracted, Uraraka touched herself, floated over him, and hugged the weapon. Retrieved! Hero team wins! The buzzer sounded. Downstairs, Bakugo stood in the silence. He stared at the ceiling. He had lost. He hadn't even been beaten in a fight. He had been ignored. Outmaneuvered. Izuku lay on the floor upstairs, his arm throbbing. He had used a 100% smash to break the floor. He looked at the ceiling. Mission accomplished. Casualties, none. Psychological damage to rival, maximum. He smiled. Aizawa was right. It's not about power. It's about the ruse.